we're not here to make up the numbers, we're here to compete as well. This squad, with the power they have on their day, they can do anything they want.
Hello, welcome to this month's Stourbridge FC Women's Monthly Press Conference. Today we are joined by Mike Harris, manager, Esme Moran, first team player. How are you both doing?
Good, yes, good. Living the dream. Just back from a nice day at work and ready to go for training tonight. Before we've got a couple of quiet weeks before the storm in a few weeks' time. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, not too bad. A couple of days away from Easter holidays, so into the final stretch. So persevering.
Excellent. Mike, all the hard work has come down to this, 9 points ahead of the relegation zone with only 5 games remaining. Surely yourself, the team, the chairman and the fans would have taken this at the start of the season.
Yeah, brilliant position. We speak about a lot of, we don't tend to speak about league positions before games, so I don't think that's our priority at the time. There's nothing stopping us looking for results at the end of the games, it's what everybody does. We're in a brilliant position where we're not the ones having to get the points, we're not the ones counting down opportunities, because we put ourselves in such a good position. The league has been tough the second half of the season. We've had injuries, players away, players coming in. We've had a lot of changes over the course of the season and started to take its toll a little bit. But at the same point, the girls have been brilliant. There is a longer process going on here and we are battling against some unbelievable football teams, but I'm really proud of the position we're in. I'm really, really happy with the girls and the club and everything it's done this year. I think the fans too should take an enormous amount of credit with the position that we're in. I remember when Wolves won the Div 1 Midlands and they came up and said their priority was 20 points and they're in a very different position to us in a very different league. So I'm very happy with how things are going and long may it continue.
Speaking to a few of the fans after the WBA game, they correctly explained that this season has felt like we have been in a mini league. We currently sit second in that league of 4. Was this your plan all along to prioritise the games that matter the most?
I don't think we prioritise them in terms of we put them on a pedestal above other games. I think if you want to stay in the league, then we've won the most important games, and I think by winning games, not only, it sounds ridiculous, but not only are you getting points on the board, but you're stopping your rivals from getting points. And I think that's been a massive key to our success. We have taken 9 points from our 2 games against Farwood and our 1 game against Huddersfield, and that's probably with a 9-point gap at the moment. We've done a brilliant job putting ourselves in that position. In terms of the teams around us and the teams above us, you're competing with Championship and Premier League budgets, and when you've got Premier League clubs, backing women's teams in this league and their women's team saying they can't compete with the team at the top end of the league, you know what kind of battle you're in. And I think it's the task for us was very simple. When we came up with Newcastle, they were going to be the first team ever to be a full-time Tier 3 team, but we were going to have to be the team that stayed in this league. We were going to have to be a team that saw 2 teams that have been a staple in this league relegated. So, for us to even be in the position where we are outside the relegation zone, in the best possible position we could be at this time of the season, I think everybody, like I said, should take masses of credit, and we're really happy with what we're doing here.
A bit of player departure news. It was nice to see Ellie Butler score a debut goal for her new club, Bournemouth, on the weekend. How would you best describe her time at Stourbridge?
Yeah, we're really pleased for Ellie. She got a brilliant offer from Bournemouth, and I think everybody. I think it would have been silly for me. Well, it would have been silly. It would have been selfish of me to try and tell Ellie to stay, because her ambition was to return to full-time football, and that's what she's done. And Bournemouth have put a brilliant package together for her. She turned down other opportunities with big name clubs while she was here too. To stay at Stourbridge, and she was gutted to leave, which is what I want for every player who comes under our stewardship. And I would say that Ellie contributed massively to the brilliant result against Albion that day. I think she came here and I think she learned a lot from her time here, but what I think she felt was, I think she felt valued by fans, by staff, by players, and I think her time here has allowed her to almost settle back into football a little bit. You know, she'd had a turbulent career for probably the year before she came to us, and kind of the values of the club here and all of the good work that goes on with player support and player care, I think was exactly what Ellie needed. And she goes to Bournemouth, I think, a better player and ready to be the best teammate that she can be. So really pleased for her. Great to see her get a goal, and I hope Bournemouth and Ellie have all the success they deserve.
Mel Rogers' time at the club has also come to an end, but she certainly left on a positive note by having a drink with all of her Stourbridge friends on her last day. What is Bowlby going to get from Mel Rogers?
A massive character. No, a great person. Mill will always be Mill. The moments she produced for the club, I think of Derby, I think of the goal versus Town in the cup, in the League Cup, was a great goal. I mean, she's had so many brilliant moments, but the very best of Mill was probably, you know, her. I mean, she's personified Stourbridge for the last few years. That kind of big personality, big attitude, big player on the pitch. You know, she's had her own cult following in so many ways. And rightly so, she's a huge character, and she will be whatever she wants to be in football. And I hope she has all the success at Boldmere, you know, wherever her journey takes her. I'm sure she will be absolutely brilliant. So sad to see her go, but glad she's doing the right thing for her.
Ez, I think I'm right in saying this, but I think you began the season as captain versus Nottingham Forest. You've recently taken the armband while Kelsey Richardson hasn't been available. As one of the leaders within the squad, how has the season gone for you personally?
I think it's gone how, if you asked me at the beginning of the season, I would really be chuffed with where we are. You know, 15 points, winning the games that we'd kind of be striving to win, but then also taking points from, if I'm being completely honest, where I wasn't necessarily expecting the team to take points from, which might sound a bit negative, but when I think about the fact that we got a draw from Stoke, which I know this season, you know, they've put loads more financial support into it. I think taking points away from them at home, you know, the win against West Brom, I would never say never for this team, but I'll be completely honest, if you asked me at the start of the season if I thought we'd get points in those areas, I'd probably be like, oh, well, maybe we could do. So to be where we are on 15 points now, we've spoke a lot in the changing room recently about how do we want to continue to get points, obviously. Do we think games have kind of gone our way recently? No. But we did enough in the first half of the season to be in the situation where we are now, which I don't think is so much of a negative to how we're currently playing. I think it's more credit to how we have previously played, and that's not because of different personnel, that's not because of anything like that. I think it's almost a little bit inevitable when you've got a squad that at times kind of is a little bit more depleted in numbers or a bit more fatigued. You know, we aren't lucky enough or have the backing to have full-time players, and you know, we're a non-league club, absolutely. So we're having players come to midweek games having had long days at work, not maybe being able to eat properly, might not be able to sleep properly because of certain other things that we have to do. Recovery after matches, I remember it's after the County Cup last season against Wolves. They'd started their recovery and we were all packing away because we had to get to school. I had to get to school the next day. I couldn't sit there and stretch. Well, I did, but I couldn't do a full yoga session because I've got other commitments. So I think where we are in the league and what we've achieved this year is massive credit to everyone around us, everyone that's been here, everyone that's still here. I think, I can't remember who it was last year, but there was a team that didn't get a win. And the fact that we've got multiple wins and other points on top of that is just, to me, that's a success as it is. Obviously, we've got goals that we really hope to achieve by the end of the year, but that was a bit of a fear for myself and I know other players in and around the camp that, oh my life, like this is a ridiculously hard league with incredible teams surrounding us left, right and centre. You know, the week that we've got coming up, we've just played Newcastle. There was a bit of a fear of how are we even going to get points on the board, and we've got 15, which I would have been pretty tough with last year in Tier 4, let alone this year in Tier 3. So I think it's been brilliant so far.
You got 13 appearances this season, excluding the County Cup. What have you done this season and over the summer to improve your game? so you can continuously keep on improving and being selected for the squad?
I think over pre-season I had a massive focus on fitness. I was completely, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I've always quite enjoyed my fitness and people always think I'm a bit mad about that. But I was like, I know I need to increase my strength. My agility is something I'm forever working on. And endurance is, again, I do quite enjoy it, but it was like, I really need to step it up. I absolutely ran myself into the ground over pre-season to the point where my appearances aren't as many as I want to be because I developed quite bad tendonitis, which is still the bane of my life. And then I think coming out of that bout of tendonitis from running on the treadmill for a good couple months, I realised that actually, obviously I'm always working on fitness and strength and all those things, but it was more my game understanding that I think I speak to Tash still quite a lot about, because in Tier 4, I wouldn't necessarily say we played loads of football into midfield in Tier 4. So to be able to, in Tier 3, you can't just play one way. As much as we were really nervous about playing into midfield at the start of the season, it was something that you can't just ignore nearly like a third of the team. So it was more, how can I technically and tactically improve so that actually this fitness that I've developed is kind of coming into play. Because I think a lot of the time, especially towards the first half of the year, I just hid, because I was like, if I don't get the ball, I can't make mistakes and I can't be a reason for a goal to go in. But then I think maybe around Christmas, when I was a little less injury ridden, touch wood, I started to think, what's the point being in the league if you're not gonna even try to get on the ball or even think about making mistakes? At least if you make a mistake, you've got on the ball. So I think it was more mentally, stop hiding, understand the game a bit more, understand that it's not going to be man for man every time. My life, you try to play man for man against Newcastle, Wolves, Burnley, you'd be running like 15k. So I think that was my main focus, especially in the second half of the season.
You were substituted off in the early stages of the West Brom game due to a quad injury. How is that now?
It feels okay. I'm due to be assessed for it on Thursday, but walking around school on the day of the game, I could feel it, and I was thinking, this just doesn't feel like it's going to be super positive. But having had a couple of days after the game, and I think stopping and listening to Adam when he said not to be ridiculous and kind of push it too much, I've always been a little bit of a culprit for that, of kind of mentally being not stopping myself, because actually maybe it's a little bit better, but then also not going too far and kind of pulling it for the rest of the season. So I think we found a happy balance. Adam's brilliant, and the support that he gives us is amazing, so he's really helped out as well. So gym tonight and then hopefully back to training on Thursday, so it's not too bad.
Last week against West Brom on the Thursday night, we had a few players that were classed as unavailable. How are they looking in the squad currently?
Yeah, so it was probably 6 for various reasons. 2 of them I can't talk about yet. You've got, where we're looking, obviously Dicko is going to take some time, which is absolutely fine as expected. Obviously Esme limped off. You'll be absolutely fine by later end of this week. Jade was unavailable
Lizzie?
Because of illness. Lizzie is on the route to return. I'm hoping to see her back for the Wolves game. So yeah, it was tough. It was a tough run, and what you don't want in a triple game week is 5 or 6 missing depth wise, and backup plans had fallen through. So we're working really hard to get everybody back to full fitness. We've got Adam, who's come in and doing a great job S&C wise. So we have work to do still. We're still learning what it takes to really kind of compete at a level. It's all well and good working really hard on a Sunday against Newcastle, producing a great result, but actually there are ramifications for the week after, and we've got to work out how we adapt to those circumstances. But it's the first time we'd ever really played against a full-time team, so it was a good learning curve for players, staff, and we've got a better idea of how we fit now.
In the not too distant future, we've got a 3 game week. Obviously Burnley, Wolves and Forest all here at the warm roller ground. What are your sort of realistic targets against those 3 teams, and could you see any of those 3 teams pushing for promotion next season, possibly given a full-time outlet?
I think all 3 teams will have looked to next season and gone, actually, this probably has to be our year. I think you will got realistically. I'm aware that other teams outside those three may be investing heavily too, and so what you're probably going to see is an incredibly competitive tier 3. I think the jump this summer, coming into this season alone, was huge, but I don't think that the league's going to sit on its hands. I think the boards at Nottingham Forest, Burnley and Wolves will all be very aware of the fact that the team that won the league this year was the only full-time team in the league. I think other big Championship and Premier League clubs outside of those three will be aware that the team that won the league this year was full-time. So I think all three of them will feel like it's a good opportunity to do so. I think probably the team that gets it will be the team that really invests and genuinely invests in their women's section and somebody who wants to take the gamble. So yeah, I think it will be a really interesting season next season. It looks like there's two good teams coming up to join us. We're not sure who it is from the Midlands yet, but whatever happens. We will produce the best possible Stourbridge and compete. Should things go away over the next 6 weeks. So yes, it will be an interesting time. I think it's great for anybody who enjoys women's football to see how competitive tier 4, 3 and 2 have been this season.
As in the not too distant future, touch wood, you're going to be reaching your 100 appearances for the club. What are your thoughts on joining a select few individuals that there's only 4 actually that have reached that mark before you?
I think, I'm really chuffed, to be honest. I think especially joining the club 5 years ago, I never really looked too far into the future with it. I mean, I obviously had one season completely chalked off because of COVID. I wonder if that's part of my numbers. I'll switch clock. But yeah, I just think I'm really happy here. And when I started, it was all about the project and how, where can we get to. So to have come from tier 6 playing on, park pitches in the middle of nowhere with my dad watching, to now playing in stadiums, and Molineux last season, Newcastle in front of 4,000 people, still with my dad watching. I think I'm really proud of myself, but I'm also really proud of the club and all the people around me. And there's people who have been here for pretty much near the same amount of time, myself, so Jess, Bate, and like I said, players who have left before us. So I think it's really nice to kind of, it almost feels a little bit full circle, from when I joined when I was 19 to now being 24, playing at tier 3 in front of the people that we are and achieving what we are. Just very proud.
Touching back on those earlier years, like you mentioned at the club, what are some of your favourite memories from that maybe first or second year here?
Ooh, I honestly think the kiddie game. It was my first game, my first league game, because the first one, the FA Cup game, we won't talk about. The first league game, and I remember it was late August. I think it was around my birthday, and we played against Kiddie, and I remember it was one that was pretty much a bit of a league decider for that year, because that league was strange. It was quite competitive, but it was also, there were quite big gaps in certain areas. But that year it was all talk about ourselves or Kiddie. And obviously, local rivalry always has been, always will be. So that was a game that I was really looking forward to, and I think we won 3-0, 4-0,
4-1.
4-1. So that was a game I really enjoyed. I'm trying to think of tier 5 moments. FA Cup in tier 5 was a good one, wasn't it? Had lots of. It was the year of Knoll, Port Vale.
No, that was the Derby year. You're thinking of second year in tier 6.
Yeah, there's honestly I think because of COVID, tier 6 and tier 5 blend into one, and I think it's really interesting now, especially looking at tier 5, which I think has become so much more competitive since we were in tier 5, because tier 5 then was us, Lichfield and Sutton, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. See, they all blend into one. Obviously, it was kind of us three, whereas now looking at it, all of the teams seem to have stepped up with their investment, which is brilliant, and have started to get a lot of backing. So I think that's a really interesting. It's interesting to look back on and think that these are teams, especially some of them with the foundation that they've got behind them and the club that they've got behind them. These are teams that in 2 years' time could be up in tier 3 as well if if they really wanted to be. But yeah, there's been some great matches. Crusaders was always a good game.
Mike, comparatively this season compared to the past 2 or 3, we found scoring goals a lot harder to come by. How do you define a good performance from your forward line this season, especially against some of the bigger teams?
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at previous seasons and our goal scoring tallies, I don't actually think our centre forward has been our top goal scorer right up until last season. I think for previous years, I think it come from higher lying midfielder roles, if I'm right, which really was a lot to do with the way that we played. What I think the biggest thing about us and the way that we've always approached the game is that everybody attacks and everybody defends. So, I think about the out of possession job that Jade did against Newcastle. It was incredibly difficult going forward for Jade and everybody, and the quality of the player in Newcastle's backline was incredibly high. You also got to think that we're so deep at times that what we're asking the centre forward to do is hold the ball for so long against a player of such high calibre that actually it's very difficult at times. But the biggest thing I can praise Jade for from the Newcastle game is her out of possession work was phenomenal, and it wasn't just kind of working hard, very intelligent, very clever. She positioned herself in a place that supported the midfield all day. But then if Jade didn't do that, that forces our midfield to play in a different way, and it might not be 3-0. So, everybody attack, everybody defends. Probably the big bit from the Newcastle game is we didn't do a good enough job of keeping it once we won it back, but it's very difficult because it's Newcastle, and they do a great job of counter pressing when they lose the ball. So we did have moments in the game where we could have kept it better. We could have linked with the forward line a bit better. One of the big issues we've had this season is consistency in that 11, and consistency in the squad for various reasons. A transitioning club, transitioning team, players working out each other, positions, transfers. So consistency has been really tough, and finding a set play style has been tough. But I think they've handled it brilliantly. I think the forwards have a particularly difficult role this season, but I think they're working hard, and as long as you get hard working forward, you've got a chance.
Some positive news from Thursday night as we saw Molly May-Summers return to the warm-up and obviously in the dugout as well. What was your sort of thought process behind getting her involved?
Yeah, so it's becoming more common at the level, I think, to bring 17 or 18 to a game as opposed to 16. Things happen in the warm-up. I take her back to the Huddersfield game. The goalkeeper broke her hand in the warm-up. So if Huddersfield had an extra number there, they have an extra player to bring onto the pitch. Something that we gleaned from other clubs during the season. When we looked at the squad set up Thursday night, we had a couple limping, i.e. Miss Moran here, and we pondered in the warm-up whether it was right to pull certain people and potentially give Molly an opportunity. Molly come back in pre-season, rebuilt her confidence from her ACL, and has come on a massive journey this season to the point where I had a couple of people in the club approach me about seeing Molly in reserve team games and how well they thought she played. So the natural progression at the club is that when Jade was unavailable, with a certain new forward on the way, not available, actually we needed the next person up, and the next person up was Molly May-Summers, and a massive credit to her. That's how this football club works. We're a club devoted to giving people opportunities. Everyone was in the side as well. Zara was in the side, so that's a young squad full of players getting opportunities. And whilst at times, sometimes it's lovely to sign lots of new players and get excited about new faces, actually let's be excited about our pathway too, and excited about giving young players opportunities.
Ez, you've played with Molly May in the first team a few years ago before her long-term injury. For the fans who haven't seen her play, what can you expect to see from her?
Oh, hard-working, pacey, really deceptively strong. Because you tend to look at people with pace and you don't necessarily think that they're going to be, but she is, in the best way possible. She's very aggressive, which I think is brilliant as a forward, especially if someone that's, you get worried. She's running towards you and you get worried, like the ball's coming over your head and you're like, Molly's getting this ball. Intelligent, really intelligent player, always has been actually since she's been like 17 years old. That kiddie game that I mentioned earlier, she scored a great header, and she scored near enough the same header recently for the pathway, and going back across the goalkeeper. She's very, very intelligent with her finishing, with her movement. and just a lovely, lovely person as well, which always makes it a little bit nicer when you've got a good player on your side.
Now we'll just take the questions that have been submitted via social media. So first one from DG01982. Unusual username. What's the chance of Zoe Clark being pushed up higher, as it seems quite an attack-minded fullback?
I'd love to push them all up higher. Yeah, so we look at things constantly. I think what I would say to everybody is that the team has been in such a big transition this year, and there's been a lot going on for a lot of the season. It's felt a lot of the time like we're firefighting a little bit, trying to work out actually how we're going to gel this group of players together, how we're going to make them all fit, because we've got X, Y, and Z new face, and all of a sudden this player's injured, and all of a sudden that player's injured, and all of a sudden that player's been signed by X club, and so we've done a lot of firefighting this year. I can't wait to have a pre-season with them all, and to really get our teeth stuck into what Stourbridge in Tier 3 looks like, because there's been a lot that's gone on this season. If there is a world in which Zoe Clark becomes a higher line player, that's what it will be. It is something that's entered our heads and conversations, not just this season, but in previous seasons too. I think Zoe will be the first to tell you that she loves flying up the pitch with the ball. But I have no preconceived ideas. I want to find the best position for Zoe and for all of the girls at this level, and the best way for us to play as a team. And I think that balance is really important. I think Zoe's in the right place for her right now. I think the move from left back to wing back has been an exciting one, and you've seen at times flashes of that brilliance, but there's also been a lot of change, and she's done a lot of great defensive work for us this year that's been really important too.
Next question is from Paul Hazeldine. How do you bounce back from the losses, and have you got any more players coming in?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you speak about the forward line, and I think about what success is. What success for Stourbridge in Tier 6 5 years ago, that was very different to what success for Stourbridge is against Newcastle United. And I think everybody who was at the Newcastle United game would tell you that it felt like a win, which sounds ridiculous in so many ways. But when you're competing against the resources, when you're competing against the experience and how stable clubs have been at this level for such a long time. I mean, Huddersfield and Fylde 4 years ago were the top two, in the league before COVID struck the league down after 8 games, and they're now staring down the gun, and that's shown you how far the league has come. And it's not just about turning up and thinking you're gonna get a brilliant squad straight away. You've got all sorts to deal with. You've got clubs who've been at level for 5-6 years, know the level like the back of their hand. The players know the clubs know the players. I was speaking to somebody very recently on my A license course, and she said the other thing that you have to battle, Mike, is badge power. And the badge power of a Wolves, a West Brom, a Newcastle, a Burnley, a Stoke. There's a very, very different scenarios when you're talking about recruitment. It matters to players, and I'd love to tell you it doesn't matter to players, and they just want to play for the right place for them. But the badge matters for various reasons. People want a certain level of facility, a certain level of everything, and they're willing to sit on the bench to be part of that, which is absolutely up to them. We have some great conversations with the girls who come in, and we talk about who we are as a club and what you can expect from Stourbridge, and we're always really honest about that, because we want people to come in and be humble and hard-working, but respect the badge that we have and respect the values that we have as a club. You might go, Stourbridge have lost 5 games in a row, but I go, actually, we've lost to Newcastle United, Stoke, Derby, West Brom, and a lot of the time we've at least run them close, and in points in those games, we've had more shots. We had more shots than Derby in the Derby game. And there were games where we weren't happy with the performance. Wasn't happy with the performance against Halifax. Wasn't happy with how things played out against West Brom. But there were different factors in both of those games that we've taken into account. What I don't want to become is, right, we've lost a game, so what we're going to do now is we're going to sign 3 players, because that's not how this club works. And actually, I'd rather coach players. He told me that I can work with these players, develop them, progress them in their careers, and then send them off on full-time contracts. That might be our role here at Stourbridge Football Club, and we've done it. There's 3 players who've gone off to big name badges this season, which is, I think, a massive credit to this football club, a massive credit to the staff, the players who are still around here, and everybody. And you know, there are bigger, more important things than looking at the league table sometimes. But we're not expected to do what we've done this season. We have overachieved. It was described as a miracle if we stay up and we put ourselves in the best position. So I'm not going to say that even if we have a brilliant summer that we're going to finish in the top 4, because that might not be feasible. You know, we've got to work with the resources that we have. But I can tell you now that despite the challenges we face, we've had a brilliant year at this club. The girls have had a great experience. The change room is fantastic. We've upheld the values of the club. We've upheld our own cultural values, and we've had a great year for so many different reasons. It's not the season that we're used to at Stourbridge, but if we want to be at Tier 3, this is the new norm.
Yeah, so the next question is from Ashley. Any plans to see any more pathway players in the first team before the end of the season? And what are you looking forward to most with only 5 games left?
Summer. Listen, I think it's about opportunity. I think it's about doing the right thing at the right time. We have to prepare as if we're going to be chased down still at this point, because it's a very real possibility that Huddersfield pick up 6 points, and we've got to find some points to guarantee us. So we're gonna give the right opportunities at the right times, is what I would say. We'd like 1 or 2 more friendlies, and we'd like to include more pathway players. The triple game week, I think the biggest thing that I've learned from the Newcastle and West Brom week is that you're going to have to rotate, you know, and that we will use the entire squad that triple game week, because if we don't, you're going to pick up injuries, you're going to have all sorts of issues that arise from it. So there will be lots of rotation, there'll be lots of opportunities. I would love nothing more than to be able to include 3 or 4 more pathway players in before the end of the season. I've got to manage things a little bit with rules and other leagues and this, that and the other. But I think we all get great joy from seeing your Molly May Summers appearing, your Ellie Williams of the world, you know, your Erins. I think it's brilliant, and I'd love to do more of it. I also want to set people up to succeed as well, so I'm not going to force it if it's not the right opportunity to.
Yeah, so the next question is from NAG, Wolves fan. He said a question for you both. Favourite biscuit cake sold in the bar on match day?
Jeez.
This is a you question.
Yeah.
I'm not a biscuit person.
I can't remember the name of them. This is such a plug. The
Treats for you.
yes. Or I had the chocolate orange on the other day. That was great. I would enjoy them a lot.
It's available for sponsorship.
We bought about 4. We bought so many. I think Hannah bought like 2. She bought 1 for herself, 1 for Plym. I think I bought 1. Soph bought 1. We bought so many.
Just finely tuned athletes, all of it.
Yeah. It was after a training session. We needed to replenish the sugars.
And energy, yeah. So the final question from Anthony. You're both big Liverpool fans.
Oh.
The women's team are performing amazingly well this season. And thoughts on what you'll see? Thoughts what you'll see on Jurgen Klopp's last season and any trophy. Well, obviously you've seen one, the League Cup.
Oh.
Any more you think you're gonna see?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. Trophy filled with United fans' tears, hopefully.
It's all my
someday.
Yeah.
It's all my tears.
No, it's great.
Oh.
It's sad for the league, isn't it? Klopp going. I hope he wins another one. Yes, the Premier League would be lovely, especially if City get a points deduction.
Oh,
But we'll see. Arsenal in the mix of 2, so thereabouts. Europa League, I think we're tipped favourites for Europa League, which means in true Liverpool fashion, we'll lose to Leverkusen in the final. So
it's almost like it's been set up that way.
it has been set up beautifully. So yeah, it is what it is. It's great to hear United fans talking again after 7 years. So
We've not had a lot to talk about. So,
thanks, Anthony, for your question.
yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, guys. I know I've got no game this weekend, so we will see you Easter against Burnley. So have a good week, and we'll see you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.